Policy and economy in energy, energy policy, electricity prices and regulation. In this video, we'll talk about the European Union energy policy, electricity prices and regulation. At the end of this module, you will be able to understand the European Union main policies and how it affects the electricity prices and how they are regulated. The European Union is actively promoting Europe's transition to a low-carbon society. The transition towards secure, efficient and clean energy will require more than just technological innovation, but probing the social, demographic, geographic, ethical, economic and political aspects, so as to boost European competitiveness. Updating its rules is also a must in order to facilitate the necessary private and public investments in the clean energy transition. This should not only be positive for the planet, but also for the economy and the consumers. The European Union's aims to achieve by 2030 at least 40% cuts in greenhouse gas emissions from 1990 levels, at least 32% share of renewable energy, at least 32.5% improvement in energy efficiency. The low-carbon transition aims to create a sustainable energy sector that can stimulate growth, innovation and jobs, whilst improving quality of life, increasing choice, reinforcing consumer rights, and ultimately enabling energy savings in household bills. Europe's strategic long-term vision is to become an even more prosperous, modern, competitive, and emissions-free economy by 2050, as well as to become the world's first climate-neutral continent. The Strategic Energy Technology Plan, or SET Plan, consists of 10 research and innovation actions, such as developing highly performant renewable energy sources technologies, or RES technologies, integrated in the energy system, reducing costs of key RES technologies, creating new technologies and services for consumers, increasing integration, security, and flexibility of the energy system, increasing energy efficiency in buildings, improving energy efficiency in industry, becoming competitive in the batteries sector for e-mobility and stationary storage applications, strengthening market take-up of renewable fuels, setting up research and innovation activities and commercial viability experimentation with carbon capture, storage and use, increasing safety of nuclear power sources and the management of their waste, organizing actions to reach the objectives. In order to implement the set targets, it's of utmost importance the international cooperation between the European Commission, the Agency for the Cooperation of Energy Regulators, the Council of European Energy Regulators, the European Network of Transmission System Operators for Electricity, and the European Distribution System Operators, and other organizations. At the national level, parliaments, governments, regulators, and municipalities should work hand in hand to transform the energy sector. Legal acts should also be harmonized. EU directives, regulations, decisions, and the national primary and secondary legal acts, the law on energy, the national energy strategy, as well as the pricing methodologies and the trading rules. The power of cooperation could be learnt from history. After World War II, in 1957, the Treaty of Rome created the European Economic Community, also known as EEC, between 6 European countries. In 1987, the European Single Market Programme was presented, removing any physical, legal, and financial obstacles to the free movement of goods, services, capital, and labour within the European Union. In addition, there was a requirement for the annulment of the state-owned monopolies. In 1990, Great Britain made a good start in the electricity sector restructuration and privatization, followed by Norway in 1991 and the USA in 1992. Since the 1st of July 2007, the EU 27 and Norway declared the electricity market liberalized at 100%. The Energy Union made a long way from vision to reality. In 1996, the first electricity directive was adopted. The reform process was based on the individual model chosen by each country. In 2003, the second electricity directive provided with more precise deadlines for market opening, a market model and regional electricity trading. In 2009, the third electricity directive, also known as the Third Energy Package, opened the market without regulated end-user prices. In 2015, the European Commission defined 8 network codes or EU regulations for connection, operation and market with mandatory deadlines and provisions. In 2019, the 4th Electricity Directive, also known as the Clean Energy Package or CEP, was released, considering the climate change aspects. Concentration, right of vertical use, lack of market integration, lack of transparency, and price increases were the barriers needed to be eliminated. By combining national and then regional markets, the problem of concentration in power generation seems to disappear. But the issue of interconnections becomes relevant. In 2010, the EU prepared the 10-year Network Development Plan, or TYNDP, with the planned investments of €700 billion until 2020. In 2015, the European Union electricity market consisted of 200 million billable customers, 3,500 companies, 2,400 distribution companies, 800,000 employees, €500 billion of annual industry turnover, 1,100 gigawatts capacity, 3,500 terawatt-hours generation annually. Concerning the end-user price, which is the energy price defined by the market, it has witnessed a decrease from 41% in 2012 to 37% in 2018. The other state-regulated price or network price plus RES and taxes changed, mainly due to supply safety, the EU market creation, and RES integration. In 2018, the end-user price for households was of €208.3 per megawatt-hour. In 2018, the cheapest wholesale energy prices could be seen in the northern part of Europe. The average annual day-ahead electricity price in Europe varied from €39.89 to €64.87 per megawatt-hour, and the relative change was from -3% to 46%. The end-user price is mainly affected by 4 factors: supply, demand, competition, and regulation. Supply factor is related to fuel prices, available generation, and available transmission. Demand factor is related to the peak load, megawatts, and the increase of consumption, megawatt-hour. Competition is not an easy index to define due to the behavior of the market actors. Finally, the regulation factor is related to the provisions of the legal acts. Regulators should balance the interests between energy companies and customers by seeking effective management and viable companies, fair prices or protection of customers' interests, quality of services with equal conditions and non-discrimination. The actors of the electricity market are the generators, the transmission system operators, the distribution network operators, the market operators in charge of power exchange, the suppliers, and the customers. Why and what to regulate? Regulation is needed when competition is not fair. For example, when there are less than 3 or 5 market actors. High-voltage transmission networks and medium to low-voltage distribution networks are natural monopolies. Therefore, they are regulated. Other activities are not regulated, despite having a large market share. Regulators mainly set pricing methodologies, approve the tariffs of network usage, issue licenses and permits, monitor the market, apply sanctions, and solve disputes. In the past, the volatile oil product prices affected electricity prices, as half of them is energy or fuel-based component. Renewable energy in power generation could change the situation. Excluding hydro energy, it increased by 14% in 2018, slightly below the 10-year average growth, 16%. However, its increase in energy terms, 71 million tons of oil equivalent, was slightly below the record-breaking increase of 2017. China accounted for 45% of global growth, and its consumption has increased 20-fold in the last 10 years. Wind, 142 terawatt-hours, contributed more to renewable generation growth than solar, 131 terawatt-hours. Wind has accounted for around 50% of renewable generation in the last few years. Climate change, globalization, urbanization, and digitalization megatrends require a new power system, new regulations, and price-setting principles. a decentralized generation, innovative funding mechanisms, smart meters and grids, battery technology, and the prosumer's involvement may help to adjust consumption according to production and reach the set energy policy goals. The politics and planning, market organization, forward, day-ahead, intraday markets, and balancing and system services spheres are crucial for the effective functioning of the EU energy market. Since mid-2019, the new energy policy framework established under the Clean Energy for All Europeans package, also known as CEP. During the period from 2016 to 2040, Europe plans to reduce its primary energy demand by 200 million tons of oil equivalent, while the US and Japan, respectively 30 and 50 million tons of oil equivalent. To summarize, the European Union envisioned a European electricity market that produces safe, efficient, and clean energy. The ambition is to become a zero-emissions economy. It took decades of directives, through electricity directives and plans such as the Strategic Energy Technology Plan, the 10-year Network Development Plan, and the Clean Energy Package to initiate a common electricity market. These directives established rules that allowed regulated and unregulated companies to collaborate. To address the environmental objectives, the directives promote an entire system of regulation rules, pricing, and balancing system, as well as infrastructure that ease integration of renewables and automatize it. Thanks for watching.